Imagine waking up 100,000 years ago. You walk outside. There are plants everywhere. Grass, trees, flowers, pollen floating through the air. You eat berries. You eat nuts. You eat meat. You eat whatever your group managed to find. And somehow, your immune system doesn't immediately declare war on breakfast. Now fast forward to today. Someone eats a peanut. Someone else drinks milk. Another person walks past a tree. And their immune system basically says, we have a problem. Sneezing, itching, runny noses, asthma, food allergies. But here's the strange part. We're ancient humans actually better at avoiding allergies? And if they were, what changed? The answer isn't simply that ancient humans had stronger immune systems. In fact, their immune systems may have been exposed to something ours increasingly isn't. And to understand what happened, we have to understand what an allergy actually is. Your immune system is supposed to protect you. Your immune system is basically your body's security system. Its job is to identify things that might be dangerous and respond to them. Bacteria? Potential threat. Virus? Definitely a threat. Parasite? Get the security team. But sometimes the system makes a mistake. It sees something harmless and treats it like an invading army. That harmless thing might be pollen, a food protein, dust mites, animal dander, and that exaggerated immune response is what we call an allergic reaction. One important player is a type of antibody called IgE. IgE is useful in defending against certain parasites, but in allergic people, IgE can also recognize harmless substances as threats. So pollen enters your nose, and your immune system responds as if you've been attacked. Your body releases chemicals including histamine, and suddenly, a completely innocent flower has become your mortal enemy. Well, not literally. The flower is doing nothing. Your immune system is just being dramatic. But did ancient humans really have no allergies? Here's where the story gets interesting. We don't actually know that ancient humans had no allergies, and we shouldn't pretend that we do. Allergies don't leave behind an obvious fossil record. You can't dig up a 50,000-year-old skeleton and say, yep, definitely had hay fever. Ancient people could have experienced allergic disease, but researchers have noticed something important. Allergic diseases are particularly common in many modern industrialized populations, and when researchers study populations living more traditional, rural, or farming-based lifestyles, allergy rates can sometimes be substantially different. That raises a fascinating question. Was something about the ancient, or more traditional, environment helping train the immune system? And one of the biggest clues comes from something humans encountered constantly: microbes. Lots and lots of microbes. The world ancient humans lived in. Imagine the average day for a hunter-gatherer. There isn't a supermarket. There isn't a sealed apartment. There isn't hand sanitizer sitting next to every door. There isn't a package telling you that your food has been processed in a controlled facility. Instead, you're outside. You're touching soil, plants, animals, water, natural surfaces. You're surrounded by bacteria and other microorganisms. You're also eating a much wider variety of natural foods depending on season and location. And you're not living in a perfectly controlled indoor environment. This doesn't mean ancient humans were healthier overall. They absolutely weren't. Ancient humans faced enormous dangers: infections, parasites, injuries, malnutrition, childbirth complications, and many diseases we consider treatable today could be extremely dangerous. So this isn't a story about the ancient world being a health paradise. It wasn't. But their immune systems were constantly receiving information from the environment, and that may matter. The hygiene hypothesis. In 1989, epidemiologist David Strachan proposed an influential idea that became known as the hygiene hypothesis. The basic observation was fascinating. Children growing up in larger families appeared, in some research, to have lower rates of certain allergic diseases. Why? One possibility was increased exposure to infections and microorganisms during childhood. The theory evolved over time. Today, scientists generally don't think the answer is simply dirt good, clean bad. That's far too simplistic. Instead, researchers have developed broader ideas about how early life microbial exposure influences immune development. One of them is sometimes called the old friends hypothesis. The idea is that humans evolved alongside a huge collection of microorganisms. Our immune systems didn't evolve in isolation. They evolved while constantly interacting with microbes. And modern lifestyles may have changed that relationship. Smaller families, more indoor living, cleaner water, antibiotics, urbanization, changes in diet, less contact with soil and animals, and many other environmental changes. The result? Our immune systems may be receiving a very different set of signals during development. But what about food allergies? Now let's get to the food, because this is where the story gets complicated. Ancient humans didn't have modern food allergies. We can't say that. Food allergies existed before modern supermarkets, and some food allergens themselves are ancient. Peanuts, tree nuts, eggs, milk, fish, shellfish, and other foods all contain proteins that can trigger allergic reactions in susceptible people. So why does modern food allergy feel so prominent? Part of the answer may involve how, when, and how frequently we're exposed to foods, along with genetics and the surrounding environment. For example, the immune system doesn't simply ask, is this food dangerous? It also receives signals from the rest of the body, the gut, the skin, the immune system, the microbes living around us, and the way a protein enters the body may matter. This is one reason scientists became interested in something called the dual allergen exposure hypothesis. Very simply, exposure through damaged or inflamed skin may sometimes encourage sensitization. Meanwhile, exposure to food through the digestive system can contribute to oral tolerance. In other words, your immune system can learn, yes, I've seen this protein before. It's food. Don't attack it. That's a very different response from, red alert, the peanut has arrived. The skin connection. And this brings us to something surprisingly important. Your skin. For a long time, researchers focused heavily on what happened inside the gut, but the skin can also influence allergy development. If the skin barrier is damaged or inflamed, certain environmental proteins may have more opportunity to interact with the immune system. This has helped researchers understand why conditions such as eczema can be associated with the development of some food allergies. So imagine two routes. Route 1. A food protein reaches the digestive system under conditions that promote tolerance. Your immune system learns, food. Route 2. A protein encounters an inflamed or damaged skin barrier. The immune system may interpret the encounter differently. And now, instead of tolerance, you can get sensitization. This doesn't mean every allergy happens this way. Allergies are complicated. Genetics, environment, microbiome, immune development, and exposure patterns can all interact, but it gives us an important clue.
Now let's talk about pollen. Food is only half the mystery, because there is another ancient substance that has been floating around for millions of years: pollen. Plants have been producing pollen long before humans existed. So why do so many people today react badly to it? Again, the answer probably isn't that ancient humans possessed some magical allergy-proof immune system. Instead, modern environments can change how much pollen we're exposed to, what kind of pollen is present, and how the pollen interacts with our bodies. Urban pollution is one factor scientists have investigated. Air pollution can affect the respiratory system and may interact with pollen particles and immune responses. Climate change may also matter. Warmer temperatures and changes in atmospheric carbon dioxide can influence plant growth and in seasons. So the problem isn't necessarily ancient humans didn't have pollen. They absolutely did. The environment around the pollen was different, and the human environment was different too. The city changed the game. Now picture a modern city. Millions of people, cars, buildings, concrete, air conditioning, indoor heating, artificial environments, processed foods, less regular contact with soil, and dramatically different patterns of childhood exposure. Meanwhile, many people spend most of their day indoors. Our ancestors spent enormous amounts of time outdoors. But here's another twist. Outdoor exposure isn't automatically protective. Ancient humans weren't walking through perfectly healthy forests with scientifically optimized microbiomes. They were exposed to pathogens too, and that's why we have to be careful with the story. Scientists aren't saying, go roll around in dirt and your allergies will disappear. That's not the conclusion. The real question is much more interesting. It's whether the modern environment has changed the signals that help the developing immune system learn the difference between dangerous and harmless. So what really changed? So, did ancient humans have allergies? Probably, but we cannot measure their allergy rates with the precision we can today. And there's another major problem. Modern medicine is much better at detecting and diagnosing allergic disease. A person living thousands of years ago wasn't going to visit an allergist and receive an IgE test. So some apparent difference may simply reflect differences in diagnosis and record keeping. But there is still strong evidence that allergic disease is influenced by modern environmental factors, and researchers are investigating several possible contributors: microbial exposure, urbanization, air pollution, dietary changes, changes in the microbiome, skin barrier problems, genetics, and patterns of early life exposure. There probably isn't one single switch that transformed humans from allergy-free cavemen into modern sneeze machines. It's more complicated than that. The final twist, and that's perhaps the most surprising part, the problem may not be that our immune systems became weaker. It may be that our environment became different. For hundreds of thousands of years, human immune systems evolved in environments filled with microbes, animals, plants, parasites, and constantly changing natural exposures. Then, in a remarkably short period of evolutionary time, we built cities. We changed our diets. We changed how we live indoors. We changed our relationships with microorganisms. We changed the air around us. And our immune systems had to operate in a completely new world. So the next time your nose starts fighting a perfectly innocent tree, remember, the tree isn't attacking you. Your immune system is simply making a very confident guess. And sometimes, it's spectacularly wrong. Because perhaps the strangest thing about allergies isn't that humans develop them. It's that the immune system designed to protect us can sometimes become our biggest overreaction. And that raises an even bigger question. If modern life is changing how our immune systems develop, what other parts of the human body are being changed without us noticing?